I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name is Kyle, and I've been married to Lisa for almost 8 years. At first glance, we had what many would consider the perfect relationship. I'm not saying it was flawless, what marriage is. But we shared a comfortable life together, filled with laughter, shared goals, and a mutual love that felt solid. Lisa was always the social one, the life of the party, while I was more laid back, preferring quieter nights at home. We balanced each other out, or at least I thought we did. But over the past few months, something changed. It started with her being more distant. I noticed her getting home late from work, claiming she was stuck in meetings or out with friends. At first, I brushed it off. Everyone gets busy, right? I trusted her. But then there were the little things, the way she was suddenly glued to her phone, her reactions when I asked to see it, and the change in her demeanor around me. It was subtle but persistent, like a shadow creeping into our lives. I began to pay closer attention. One evening, I was supposed to meet her at a restaurant for dinner, but she texted me at the last minute, saying her plans had changed and she wouldn't be able to make it. I came home to an empty house, a sinking feeling in my gut. I tried to distract myself with work, but the feeling of unease grew stronger. It was as if I could feel the weight of secrets hovering in the air, and I couldn't shake it off. Then there was that one fateful day. I had been working from home, and something compelled me to check our joint bank account. I found several large withdrawals that didn't make sense. They were labeled as cash withdrawals made at odd times. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as I wondered what she needed that much cash for. Was it for dinners with friends? Or perhaps something more sinister? I couldn't help but let my imagination run wild. I could feel the anger simmering beneath the surface, mixed with disbelief and confusion. Later that week, I decided to follow her one afternoon when she told me she was working late. I know it was wrong, but I had to know. I parked a few blocks away from the office and waited. An hour passed, and just when I was about to give up and go home, I saw her walk out of the building. But she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was a man in uniform, a police officer no less. They were laughing and talking closely, their body language too casual for my liking. My heart raced as I saw them get into his car and drive off together. I felt my world crash down around me. The anger surged through me like a wildfire, consuming every rational thought. I turned the car around and drove home, my mind racing. How could she betray me like this? I kept replaying those moments in my head, the laughter, the way she touched his arm. I felt sick. This was the moment I realized I had to gather evidence. I couldn't let this go unanswered. It wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about justice. I had to confront her, but I needed to prepare myself first. The following days were a blur as I planned how to catch her in the act. I set up cameras around the house and kept track of her schedule. I wanted proof, something tangible that I could use against her, but I also had to brace myself for the confrontation. I knew it would be explosive, but I had to get through it. I had to know the truth. I had one goal in mind, to make her face the consequences of her actions, not just for me but for the people she hurt along the way. I couldn't let a betrayal like this go unpunished. As the days passed, I felt the weight of my decision settle heavily on my shoulders. The anticipation of the confrontation loomed over me, feeding my anger and determination. The day of the confrontation finally arrived, and I felt a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. I spent the whole day preparing for this moment, running through scenarios in my head, practicing what I would say. My heart raced as I waited for Lisa to come home, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. I could already foresee her reactions, the denial, the anger, the excuses. I had to remain calm and collected. I needed to stick to the facts. When I heard the front door open, I took a deep breath and steeled myself. Lisa walked in, tossing her purse on the couch and smiling at me. That smile made my blood boil. How could she be so nonchalant? I had installed a small camera in the living room, hidden well enough so she wouldn't see it. I knew this wasn't just about confronting her. I wanted proof of her lies, something I could hold against her. "Hey honey, sorry I'm late. Work was crazy," she chirped, her voice cheerful. I hated how normal she sounded. But I pushed my feelings aside and took a deep breath. "Can we talk?" I asked, my tone firm. She nodded, her brow furrowing slightly. I gestured for her to sit and she complied, a hint of apprehension creeping into her expression. "Is everything okay? You look serious," she said, playing innocent. I felt a surge of anger at her feigned concern. "Not really. I found some things I need to discuss with you," I started, trying to keep my voice steady. "You've been acting strange lately. I followed you the other day, Lisa. I saw you with that cop. I know you're cheating on me." The room fell silent as my words hung in the air. I watched her face morph from confusion to disbelief and finally to anger. Her mouth opened and closed as she tried to formulate a response. "What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. You must have seen something wrong," she stammered, her voice rising. "No, I saw you. I saw you laughing and getting into his car. Don't lie to me," I retorted, feeling the fire of betrayal fueling my words. "How long has this been going on?" She shook her head, her composure starting to crack. "Kyle, you're being paranoid. I was just having a friendly conversation. He's a colleague, nothing more." I couldn't believe the audacity. "A friendly conversation? You expect me to believe that? I've seen the withdrawals, Lisa. How do you explain those?" She hesitated, her eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. "I was planning a surprise for you. You know how much I love surprises. I thought you would appreciate it." The audacity of the lie struck me dumb. I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me. "A surprise? Spare me the theatrics. This isn't some romantic comedy. This is my life. You've betrayed me and you're sitting here making excuses like it's nothing." Suddenly she exploded, her voice rising in pitch. "You don't understand. You're always so busy with work. I needed someone to talk to, someone who understands me." Her words stung. I had been busy, but I had no idea that busy meant allowing someone else into her heart and bed. "So, you decided to screw a cop. That's your solution." Lisa stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. "You don't get to judge me. You don't know what I've been through. Maybe if you had paid attention, this wouldn't have happened. Don't you dare blame me for your choices." I shot back, my voice shaking with anger. "You made this decision and now you have to live with it." Tears welled in her eyes, but I couldn't feel sorry for her. The emotional impact of her betrayal crashed over me like a tidal wave. I felt hurt, but I also felt empowered. This was my moment of truth, and I wasn't going to let her twist it. As she turned away, visibly shaken, I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. "I've gathered evidence, Lisa. I won't just let this go. You need to face the consequences of your actions." Her face paled, and for a moment I could see a flicker of fear. "Kyle, please don't do this. I'll change. I'll make it right," she pleaded, desperation seeping into her voice. But it was too late for apologies. I had waited too long to confront her, and now I had to take the next step. "No, you've shown me who you really are, and I won't let this slide. You think you can just walk away unscathed. I won't allow it." The confrontation left both of us shaken, but I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I was done being the naive husband who trusted blindly. I would make sure she faced the consequences of her betrayal. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it yet, but I was resolved to see this through to the end. The confrontation was just the first step. In the days that followed, I felt as if I was on autopilot, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge. I had to gather every piece of evidence I could find, text messages, photos, anything that would solidify my case against Lisa. The emotional turmoil was still fresh, swirling in my chest like a storm, but I focused on the task at hand. I was going to make sure she would feel the weight of her actions. As I scoured through our shared devices, I stumbled across her phone, which she had carelessly left unattended one morning. I seized the opportunity and unlocked it, my heart pounding as I dove into her messages. I was looking for proof of her affair, and I wasn't disappointed. There were countless texts exchanged with the officer, dirty jokes, flirty emojis, and even a few explicit messages that made my stomach turn. Each message was like a dagger to my heart, and the anger surged through me like electricity. I documented everything. I took screenshots of the messages, making sure to save them in a secure folder on my computer. I knew I had to be careful. Lisa was smart, and she would figure out if I was onto her. It felt like a cat-and-mouse game, but I was determined to win. I even went so far as to download a tracking app on her phone, a move I had never thought I would resort to, but I felt justified. I needed to know where she was at all times. One afternoon, as I was reviewing the evidence, I received a notification that Lisa had left work early. I felt a rush of adrenaline. I decided to follow her again, wanting to confirm my worst fears. I drove around the city, keeping my distance, and finally spotted her car parked outside a local cafe. My heart raced as I parked a block away and watched. A few minutes later, I saw her walk in, and just moments after, the same police officer who had been with her before stepped inside. They greeted each other with smiles that sent fire coursing through my veins. I felt a wave of nausea as I envisioned them laughing and flirting over coffee, and it took every ounce of willpower to keep myself from storming in there and confronting them. Instead, I remained hidden, recording the moment silently with my phone. They sat at a table in the corner, and I could see them leaning in close, whispering to each other. I captured a few photos, knowing they would serve as even more evidence. But this time, it was more than just proof. It was a moment of realization. I was watching my wife with another man, and suddenly it hit me. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was about the degradation of everything I thought we had built together. After what felt like an eternity, they finally stood up and left the cafe, walking closely together, their body language intimate. I followed them at a safe distance until they reached a park. That's when I saw them embrace, a kiss too intimate for my breaking heart to bear. It was a betrayal that shattered the illusion of our life together, and I felt an overwhelming mix of emotions: rage, heartbreak, and a grim sense of determination. I returned home, the anger bubbling beneath the surface. I had what I needed. I had enough evidence to confront her again, but this time I wanted it to be different. I wanted her to know that her actions had consequences, and I wasn't going to be the passive husband who accepted her lies. I would confront her with the truth, and I would ensure that she faced the repercussions of her choices. When Lisa came home later that evening, I was ready. I had gathered the text messages, photos, and even the evidence of her meeting with the officer. I was no longer the hurt husband. I had become the man determined to reclaim his life and dignity. As she walked through the door, I could tell she felt the tension instantly. "Hey, I'm home," she called, but her cheery tone felt forced. I didn't respond. Instead, I stood up, arms crossed, and watched her carefully, my heart steadying as I prepared to execute my plan. "Lisa, we need to talk again," I said, my tone firm. She looked at me, surprise flickering across her face. "What now, Kyle? I thought we already had this discussion." "I told you, save it," I interrupted. "I've seen enough. You think I'm going to let this go? I have proof of your affair. Every text, every picture, the whole timeline of your betrayal. I'm done with your lies." Her face paled as I pulled out my phone, showing her the images and messages. At first, she tried to deny it again, claiming it was all in fun and that nothing serious was happening. But as I laid out the evidence, her defenses crumbled. The panic in her eyes was palpable as she realized I had caught her and she was cornered. "You don't understand," she cried, her voice rising in desperation. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "No, you made a choice, Lisa," I replied coldly. "And now you'll face the consequences. You think I'll let you walk away from this unscathed?" The confrontation escalated, but this time I was ready. I wasn't going to let her blame me or play the victim. I felt a sense of power as I articulated my feelings, demanding accountability for her actions. I wanted her to understand that her betrayal had not only hurt me but had tarnished everything we shared. As she stood there, tears streaming down her face, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow. This was not the end I had wanted, but it was necessary. I had to ensure that Lisa faced the fallout of her choices, and I was more than willing to take the next steps to make it happen. I was determined to reclaim control over my life, no matter what it took. After that explosive confrontation, I spent the night tossing and turning, my mind racing with thoughts about what came next. Lisa's tearful pleas for forgiveness lingered in my mind, but I knew I couldn't let emotions cloud my judgment. Deep down, I felt a sense of liberation mixed with the pain of betrayal. I had taken a stand for myself, and now I had to decide how to proceed. The following morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. I needed to think strategically, not just emotionally. I had the evidence to confront her with the truth, but I also wanted to ensure that she faced real consequences. I had been cheated on, and I wasn't going to allow her to escape without accountability. I began researching my options, looking into the possibility of legal action. I wanted to know if I could file something against her for infidelity, or if there were any avenues I could explore that would hit her where it hurt. It surprised me how much information was out there about infidelity laws in our state, especially how they could impact divorce proceedings. I learned that while it might not always be easy to prove infidelity in court, the evidence I had collected could certainly be used to leverage my position in divorce negotiations. As I gathered my thoughts, I made an appointment with a lawyer. I wanted someone who could guide me through the process and ensure I was making the right decisions. When I arrived at the law office, I felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about reclaiming my life and moving forward. The lawyer was knowledgeable and understanding. I laid out the details of my situation, showing her the evidence I had gathered. She listened intently as I recounted my experience, my emotions spilling over as I described the betrayal. I could see the lawyer's expression shift from sympathy to a more serious demeanor as she examined the proof. "Based on what you've shown me, you have a strong case," she said. "But remember, this is going to be an emotional journey. It's not just about the legal aspects, it's about your well-being as well." Her words resonated with me. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. I had to prepare myself for the inevitable confrontation with Lisa again, but this time it would be different. I wasn't just fighting for our marriage, I was fighting for my dignity and peace of mind. After the meeting, I returned home and found Lisa sitting on the couch, looking lost in thought. I could sense the tension in the air, but I steeled myself. I had made a decision. I would tell her about my plans. She needed to understand that I was serious about my intentions. "Lisa," I said, taking a deep breath, "I met with a lawyer today. I'm going to file for divorce." Her eyes widened and a mix of disbelief and panic crossed her face. "You can't be serious. We can work this out, Kyle. I'll do anything." "No," I replied, feeling my heart harden. "You made your choice. You had your chance to come clean, and instead you chose to lie and cheat. I'm not going to let you manipulate me anymore." She shook her head, tears flowing freely now. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I love you. Please just give me another chance." "I loved you too, but love isn't enough when it's built on lies," I told her, my voice steady. "I deserve better than this. You need to understand that you can't keep playing the victim. You did this to us." As the reality of my decision sank in, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I was finally taking control of my life, and it felt empowering. Lisa's pleas for forgiveness rang hollow as she tried to twist the narrative back in her favor, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I had seen through her lies, and I was determined to move forward. In the days that followed, I continued to prepare for the divorce. I gathered all the evidence I had and met with my lawyer regularly, building my case. Each session felt like a step closer to reclaiming my life, but there was still a sense of loss that I couldn't shake. I mourned the dreams I had for our future, the plans we had made together. It was painful, but I knew it was necessary for my healing. Lisa, for her part, seemed to oscillate between desperate attempts to win me back and moments of anger. She tried to play the guilt card, reminding me of the good times we shared and insisting that I was making a huge mistake. But I stood firm, reminding myself that I was honoring my own worth. One evening, as I was preparing for another meeting with my lawyer, I received an unexpected text from Lisa. "I'm sorry for everything. I'll make it right. Just give me one more chance. I'll prove my love to you." I stared at the message, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. She was still trying to manipulate the situation, but I had made up my mind. I didn't respond. I didn't need to entertain her excuses anymore. I had already given her enough chances. The moment had come for me to take back my narrative. I had been the victim of betrayal, but I wouldn't let that define me. I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing I would emerge stronger and wiser. I was done being her pawn. I was reclaiming my power and moving forward with my life, no matter how painful the process would be. As the weeks went by, the reality of my decision began to solidify. I was now in the process of filing for divorce, and it felt like I was finally taking control of my life. I learned to navigate the emotional roller coaster of separation while juggling the logistics of legal proceedings. Each day brought its own challenges, but I was determined to see this through. The divorce filings were submitted, and soon I received a court date for our first hearing. I felt a mix of excitement and dread. This was it, the beginning of the end of our relationship. I had prepared myself for the confrontation, but nothing could fully prepare me for the emotional weight of it all. I knew Lisa would fight back, and I was prepared for her to play dirty if it came to that. On the day of the hearing, I arrived at the courthouse early, my heart pounding in my chest. I wore my best suit, trying to project confidence despite the turmoil churning inside me. As I sat in the waiting area, I couldn't help but replay the events of the last few months in my mind. The discovery of her betrayal, the confrontation, and the subsequent steps I had taken seemed surreal. When Lisa finally walked in, I was taken aback by how different she looked. She wore a carefully crafted facade of confidence, but I could see the cracks beneath the surface. Our eyes met briefly, and I felt a surge of anger and sadness all at once. I reminded myself of why I was here. This was about standing up for myself and ensuring that she faced the consequences of her choices. The hearing began, and we were called before the judge. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as we both took our seats. My lawyer stood beside me, and I could see Lisa's attorney, an intimidating figure sitting across the table. The judge was a middle-aged woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, and I took a deep breath, anticipating the questions to come. As our lawyers presented our cases, I felt the tension rise in the room. Lisa's attorney attempted to paint me as the villain, claiming that I had been emotionally distant and neglectful. I could feel my blood boiling. She was trying to deflect blame from her actions. I glanced at Lisa, who wore a mask of feigned innocence, and I couldn't help but feel a rush of disgust. My lawyer countered with the evidence I had collected. Text messages, photographs, and the timeline of her affair were laid out clearly. I felt a sense of vindication as the truth was presented, and the judge listened intently, her expression shifting as the evidence unfurled. I had painstakingly put together everything to ensure that there was no room for doubt about Lisa's infidelity. After the presentations, the judge turned to us. "It seems there are serious allegations of infidelity and deception here," she said, her tone stern. "I suggest that both parties consider mediation to resolve this matter amicably. However, if this continues to trial, the evidence presented will undoubtedly be taken into account." I could feel a glimmer of hope. Perhaps mediation could provide a way to settle things without dragging this out further. As we left the courtroom, Lisa approached me with a different demeanor. The bravado had vanished, replaced by a vulnerable look in her eyes. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice softer than I had ever heard it. I hesitated, torn between the anger I felt and the sliver of hope that perhaps we could come to some resolution. "What's there to talk about, Lisa? You've made your choices." "I know, but I'm scared. I don't want to lose everything. I messed up, Kyle. I don't want to lose you," she pleaded, her voice trembling. I looked at her, searching for any sign of sincerity, but it was hard to find. "You've already lost me. You chose to betray my trust, and now you have to face the consequences. I can't go back to what we had." She reached out, grabbing my arm. "Just think about it. I can change. I'll make it right. We can work through this together." I pulled away, shaking my head. "You don't understand. This isn't about fixing things anymore. It's about me taking back my life. You've hurt me too deeply." As I turned to leave, I could feel her eyes on me, pleading for understanding. It was heartbreaking, but I knew I had to stay strong. I had made my decision, and the only way to truly heal was to move forward without her. In the following weeks, I continued to engage in mediation sessions with Lisa, navigating the emotional terrain of dividing our lives. It was surreal to be sitting across from her in a meeting room, discussing everything from shared assets to the future. Each conversation felt like a tug-of-war as she tried to negotiate her way back into my life, all while I stood firm in my resolve. During one session, she broke down in tears. "I didn't think it would come to this. I never meant to hurt you. I thought I could manage it all." "Manage it all," I replied, my voice shaking with frustration. "You didn't just hurt me, Lisa. You shattered everything we built together. You made a choice, and now you need to face it." The mediation dragged on, and I felt exhausted. I was doing my best to stay focused, but each meeting reminded me of the pain I was trying to overcome. I knew I had to stay true to myself, even as Lisa tried to manipulate the narrative. I wasn't going to let her pull me back into her web of deceit. Ultimately, the mediation resulted in a settlement that was far from perfect, but it felt like a step towards closure. I was relieved to finally have a resolution, but the emotional scars remained. As I looked back on the journey, I realized that I had not only fought for my dignity but had also learned a lot about myself in the process. I had stood up for what I deserved, and that was something I could take pride in. With the divorce finalized, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I was ready to move on with my life, to rebuild and rediscover who I was without Lisa. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was determined to carve a new path forward. I had faced the storm and survived, and now I was ready for whatever came next. The finalization of my divorce marked a new chapter in my life, one that I had longed for yet dreaded at the same time. I felt as if I were emerging from a tunnel, blinking against the light, unsure of what lay ahead but certain that it would be different from what I had known. The emotional weight of the past few months had been staggering, but I was beginning to feel the burdens lift. In the weeks following the divorce, I focused on healing. I threw myself into my work, finding solace in the routine and the sense of accomplishment it provided. I started hitting the gym regularly, channeling my anger and frustration into physical fitness. Each workout felt like a victory, a small reclaiming of power over my life. I began to rediscover my passions, things I had set aside while trying to maintain my marriage. I picked up hobbies I had once loved, like painting and hiking, and found joy in the simple act of rediscovering who I was as an individual. But it wasn't just about distraction. I knew I needed to process the emotions that had been bottled up inside me. I sought therapy, something I had avoided during the tumultuous days of my marriage. Sitting across from a therapist and sharing my story felt like peeling back layers of a wound. I learned to navigate my feelings of betrayal, anger, and sadness, and I began to understand the importance of setting boundaries. As I worked through my feelings, I often reflected on the lessons I had learned through this painful experience. The most prominent realization was the importance of self-worth. I had allowed myself to be blindsided by love, trusting blindly, when I should have trusted my instincts. I learned that love should not come at the expense of my dignity, and that being vulnerable is a strength, but it must be balanced with self-respect. One afternoon, I found myself in a cafe sipping coffee while sketching in my notebook. It was a beautiful day, and the sun streamed in through the windows, casting warm light across the room. I took a moment to breathe it all in, feeling grateful for the clarity that had emerged from the chaos. I was single, yes, but I was also free, free from the weight of betrayal, free from the lies. I felt a sense of lightness that I hadn't experienced in a long time. Eventually, I reconnected with friends, those who I had neglected during my marriage. I had missed the camaraderie and laughter that came from genuine connections. We spent evenings sharing stories over dinner and reminiscing about the good times, and it felt healing to be surrounded by love and support, untainted by the shadows of my past. As I continued to heal and grow, I also began to open myself up to the idea of dating again. It was daunting, but I realized that I deserved happiness and companionship. I approached it cautiously, taking my time to get to know new people and ensuring I wasn't rushing into anything. Each date was a new experience, and I learned to enjoy the process without the weight of expectations. I was rediscovering not only my passions but also what I wanted in a partner: trust, respect, and the understanding that love should be a partnership, not a battlefield. It was during one of these dates that I met Sarah. We clicked immediately, bonding over shared interests and life experiences. She was kind and genuine, and she made me laugh in a way I hadn't in a long time. As we spent more time together, I felt walls I had built around my heart start to come down. I was cautious but hopeful, ready to embrace this new chapter without the baggage of my past weighing me down. Throughout this journey, I learned that healing isn't linear. It has ups and downs, and that's okay. I learned to embrace the journey, to be kind to myself, and to allow myself to feel. Each step forward was a testament to my resilience, a reminder that I could rise from the ashes of my past. In the end, I emerged not just as a survivor of infidelity, but as a stronger, more self-aware person. I had taken a painful experience and turned it into an opportunity for growth. I had learned the importance of self-love and the necessity of standing up for myself. The experience taught me valuable lessons about trust, love, and most importantly, about honoring my own worth. As I look back on the road I traveled, I can honestly say I am grateful for how far I've come. It's a journey that has shaped me, and while I wouldn't wish the pain I experienced on anyone, I know it made me who I am today, a man ready to embrace life, love, and everything that comes with it.